boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to the Jeff Iafrate Show here on a Monday morning. It is April 28th, the Monday after the 2025 NFL Draft. And today I'm going to share my thoughts now that we've gotten through the weekend with how the Lions did, what we think of the draft picks, the Pistons losing to the Knicks, and much more. Well, how's everyone doing? We got Malik in here. What's going on? Motor City, Chip God, WTB, Chad, Coach, Lions Troll. Hope you guys are all doing well. And like I said, I want to get into, I know the Pistons, it was tough. Yesterday, I couldn't make the stream. I was hanging out with my Nona. She's 94 years old. So trying to cherish that time with her. She's amazing. She could still cook. She does an excellent job. And I was watching the game over at her house. Missed the stream. The fellas did a really good job. So whoever tuned in and supported them, thank you. I thought they did a really, really good job. And the ending of the game obviously was awful. It was awful. Obviously, when the NBA comes out and says that was a call or that was a foul, and it should have been the right call was to call a foul, that makes it sting even more. I don't even know. I mean, I'm glad they clarify it, and I'm glad they come out and say it, but at the same time, it just pisses me off even more. But if you want my actual opinion, aside from the call, because no matter what I say right now, the reality is they should have at least had a chance to win that game with Tim Hardaway free throws. So I just want to make that very clear. They had opportunities earlier in that game to win it. They did. And again, despite all of it, Tim Hardaway still should have had game-winning free throws. But it's the turnovers. And Cade, responsible for it. He had 7 turnovers. And that comes down to really, in my opinion, not having another guy that can help out and you can kind of utilize Cade more off ball. But in this situation, without having Jaden Ivey, when Dennis Schroeder's not on the court, you ask a lot out of Cade Cunningham. And when that happens, man, those turnovers are going to come. And it sucks. And the turnovers get them in trouble. I mean, they almost had double the amount of turnovers the Knicks did. So turnovers were an issue. Obviously, not having a true number 2 option hurts, especially when the Knicks number 2, Karl-Anthony Towns, is red hot in the fourth quarter. And you kind of see OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges struggle throughout the entirety of the game. But then you have their number 2 step up. It's what the Pistons have been lacking, and that's basically what Jaden Ivey is. So not having Jaden Ivey obviously sucks, but I mean, you're down 3-1. Series is over. So it's a learning lesson. There's things they need to correct. I think in the offseason, at least for me, what I've noticed is you need to sign a 4. You need to sign another 3 of 4. Someone that can come in and at least relieve some minutes off Tobias Harris. I mean, he's basically being counted on this series to be the number 2, and he's playing a lot of minutes at 30 plus years old. I mean, he played 35 minutes. But they need him to play 35 minutes. So it'd be nice to have another 4. But yeah, that loss was terrible. I mean, they clawed back. Early in the game, it looked awful, really bad. They clawed back. They gave themselves a chance, and it just ends like that. Especially the way Jalen Brunson's been drawing these foul calls all series, and then Tim Hardaway can't get he can't shoot free throws when Josh Hart clearly bumped him. That's what sucks. And to Coach Walk's point, not having Isaiah Stewart, that sucks as well. It sucks, man. And Karl-Anthony Towns shooting the ball the way he was shooting it obviously stings, but it is what it is. Pistons, they had a great run. Can they win the series? I'd say no, but would I like to be optimistic and say, man, just go get one in New York? I mean, I would. But that game was a game they had to win. And that's what makes that no call sting even more. They needed that game to tie it 2-2. If you look at just data in general, teams that win series tied 2-2 versus 3-1, it's drastically different. So if that game is officiated the correct way at the end of it, the Pistons are winning this game. They're tied 2-2. And now you go to New York. But it's very, very different now. You're down 3-1. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Pistons. Still proud of them. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. You can just tell. I mean, the Knicks went all in. I mean, they traded for Mikal Bridges. You know, they acquired OG Anunoby. They're going. I mean, they're pushing to try and win an NBA championship. Which, are they constructed to do so? No, but that's what that team is. The Pistons still have a lot of work. They do. They need Jay Ivey back, of course, but they need depth, especially, like I said, that 4 spot would like another body there. We'll see. Caleb wants Naz Reid. It'd be awesome. But someone to fill that role. They just need more help. They need more talent, to be honest with you. They just do. I think they're a playoff team, but they're not a playoff run team. It's just the reality of it. All right. I want to share my thoughts on this draft class, kind of how the Detroit Lions did, because, you know, over the weekend, we were live for like 20-something. I think we were out in 20 hours. We were live total for the weekend. So if you guys tuned into it, we appreciate you. If you tuned into any of the content in general, we appreciate you. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast. From Thursday at DraftKings to Friday streaming day 2, and then Saturday streaming day 3. A lot of things happen, you know, a lot of reactions happen. I posted my Isaac TeSlaa video, and a lot of people did not like that. And I'm here to provide some more context to that, why I felt that way, because, you know, this isn't an excuse, but the reaction videos I put out, a lot of it is it's right away. So it's a live reaction. And I'm not saying that to say I've changed my opinion significantly, really at all, but there's some things that when days go by, you're like, yeah, I understand that. You know, things kind of just click. It's like when you get in an argument with somebody and then a couple days later, you're like, I could see where they were coming from. It's kind of what I dealt with over the weekend. You know, and I will say, the first round pick, I have not changed my stance on. I love Tyreek Williams. I always thought he was a borderline first round pick. I thought he was an early second round pick, but again, who gives a damn? These guys, once you get to the draft, you don't know where any of these guys are going. You just don't. You think we've learned that already, but, you know, it's just how it is. And Tyreek was someone that we all expected to go early second, but you started seeing more reports, and it got confirmed when the Bills took a nose tackle. Like, I think it was the second round. They took a nose tackle, and Tyreek went to the podium and told the Detroit Lions media that the Bills told him if he was there, they would have taken him. So now I think the biggest pushback for people with Tyreek Williams was it was a reach. I think him saying that and saying the Bills would have taken him in the first round if he was there should quiet the reach noise. That should be no longer really a conversation. So I don't think it was a reach. So I'm glad we got that out the way. I mean, even Tyreek admitted the Bills would have taken him. So let's just look at the player. I love the pick. I love the player. I think he's someone that is going to come in and going to be able to contribute right away. You're not going to have Aleem McNeil. So you have a player that can play that 3-tech, can play where Aleem McNeil usually plays while he's out. Now, when you look big picture, Tyreek Williams can also play nose tackle, which that's where he's probably going to play most of the time in the NFL. He's a really athletic nose tackle, but someone that has some upside getting after the quarterback. I mean, 5 sacks as a freshman at OSU, and he's gotten in better shape since then. So what he can do against the run it doesn't really need to be spoken on. And that's what you're looking for in your nose tackle. That's what the identity of the Lions defense is, stopping the run. And especially in your nose tackle, you want him to set the tone there. And he's one of the best run defenders in college football. Super athletic, freak athlete. Like, I think there's a lot of upside there. And he's your DJ Reader replacement. And he's cheaper. And you got him for 4 plus that 5th-year option. So Tyreek, I love the pick. I did. I was hoping the Lions, people had him, oh, you can get him in the 40s or the 50s. Guys, it's just, this is how the draft goes. Obviously, Brad had him significantly higher on his draft board. They were looking at defensive tackles. I'm not shocked they took a defensive tackle, and I'm not shocked they took a defensive tackle like Tyleik Williams, because it's easy to fall in love with him. If you hear him speak and kind of what he values in his mentality, he's a film junkie. He's a grinder. He's a hard worker, loves football, and he's just a good human being. I mean, he plays the game. He talked about it in some interviews here. You can go check it out on Detroit Lions or YouTube channel. But getting to know him, the human, I can see why they fell in love with him. So I really do. I like the Tyleik Williams pick. Now, when we get to the second round, and you get to the 25th pick in the second round, and you're sitting there, the Lions are sitting there, and I think they traded up 3 spots. I believe they traded up a couple of picks, basically. They traded up with the Broncos. I'm pretty sure Broncos moved to 60. They went to 57. They basically moved back 100 picks roughly. They threw up a fourth round pick, but they essentially moved back 100 picks in later rounds. And they got Tate Ratledge, the offensive lineman from Georgia. Started 37 games at right guard. Had a great combine. If you watch him on tape, he looks like a lion. That, like, the type of player they value, he does that. Nasty, physical. He's obviously got some athleticism, even at his height. I mean, he's 6'7", 308 pounds. So he's tough. He's very tough. And he's, honestly, as a pass blocker, very good. He's well-rounded too. So I like, again, this is what I think people get mixed up with names, and I'm trying to get away from that as I cover the Lions here. I look at positions. They went defensive tackle and offensive guard. Not mad at that. Not mad at it. I'm okay with those positions. They needed them, and Brad talked about this in the post-draft press conference, how they wanted to get younger at offensive line. So, I think drafting Tate Ratledge, that dude is going to be a starter. He's going to be your Graham Glasgow replacement. And I think he's someone that can make an impact right away. And just because you have Christian Mahogany, I think the important thing to remember is just because Mahogany played well last year doesn't mean he's guaranteed to be the future guard. I think you need to see more of a sample size from Graham. So it's not like the Lions were going to go into this draft saying, all right, we don't need 2 guards. We only need 1 because because Christian is our future guard. You've only seen 1.5 games out of Christian. So we need a bigger sample size. You got to continuously get better and add more players to increase competition, which I think is important. So they added 2 guards to compete with Christian Mahogany, and it's only going to make him better. And it just so happens that one of those players, Miles Frazier, which I'll get to in a little bit, fell in the same kind of circumstances Christian Mahogany fell. He fell in the same way. I mean, Mahogany fell all the way to like the 6th round too. And so did Miles Frazier, which I'll get to. I really like the Miles Frazier pick. But I like Tate Ratledge, man. He looks, I mean, the mullet, the stash. I mean, what do you like about him? He plays right guard. So the first two picks, not mad at. I'm not mad at. Defensive tackle, offensive guard. That was fine. Then you get to the 3rd round, which this one, okay. All right, let me add some context to this. All right. They traded up 33, 32 spots. And they gave up the 3rd round pick, 2 more 3rd round picks next year. And then they received 2 6th. So it's kind of like they gave up 2/3, but they got back 2 6th round picks. So it's kind of like an exchange of picks. You move back 3 rounds and you lose your 3rds next year. It is a lot of capital. I mean, it just is, quite frankly. You did move up a lot, though. They moved up 30-something spots. So to move up that much, you're going to have to give up, what you got to give up, especially if you really want the player. You're not as concerned with the capital. You're more concerned with just getting the player. All right, and they drafted Isaac TeSlaa. All right, the wide receiver from Arkansas, 6'4", ran a fast 40. Very, very intriguing prospect. Great hands, playmaker. when you watch him on tape, Brad spoke on this too in the press conference, but didn't get the ball a ton. But when he got the ball, he made plays. He did. I'm not going to argue with that. I really like the player. I like the player on paper. And that's why I think the video I posted kind of, it's missing some context because I was just, I was being emotional and I didn't make sure to remind people that it's not that I don't like the player. I don't. Or I do. I do like the player. It's mainly what they gave up to get him. That's mainly the problem to me. And I know before anyone says, well, Jeff, based on the trade chart, it's a pretty even trade. I mean, if you think about it, guys, third round picks, when you have a GM like Brad Holmes, are pretty valuable. He finds very good players in the third round. So that's kind of the standard I'm holding Isaac TeSlaa to at this point. I'm just being honest. And as much as I love Isaac TeSlaa, the expectations rise when you're a third round pick. We can all agree. The higher you're picked, the higher your expectations are. So I think it's fair. I like Isaac TeSlaa, like I said, but if you trade up that much to get him and select him in the third round, I think it's fair to expect Isaac TeSlaa to be really good. That's kind of the standard. I think it's fair you hold him to. You know what I mean? This isn't a 4th or 5th or 6th, 7th round pick. I'm not holding Ahmed Hassanin to crazy expectations. If he's good, great. If he's not, it's a 6th round pick. Isaac TeSlaa's a 3rd round pick. So with that comes a little higher expectations. Not that he has to be Kirby Joseph level of player, but Aleem McNeil was a 3rd round pick. It's not even just, I keep saying Kirby, but it's more than that. You can also bring up, I think, if he was a 3rd round pick. Could be wrong on that. But that's what you're looking at this like. For me, just speaking for myself. So Isaac TeSlaa, again, I like the player, man. I like his size. I like his speed. I like how he's going to complement J-Mo and Amon-Ra. I think he's someone that will fit in very nicely for Tim Patrick for the future. And I think also he's someone that fits the culture. The one thing that I when I look at Isaac TeSlaa, I'm like, that's what the Lions definitely value, and he's really good at is his run blocking. He's physical. He does a lot of dirty work. He's obviously a local kid, so I root for him. This is what I want to make very clear. I'm not rooting against him. That would be shitty, and that's not. I'm not doing that. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you this, man. If you trade up 30-something spots in the third round to take somebody, I think it's fair to have high expectations. Not high, but higher than if you were to go a round or 2 or 3 later. It's just how it is. He's not a 1st-round pick. He's not a 2nd-round pick, but 3rd-round picks, man, especially with Brad Holmes. You're looking. I know it's not always the normal thing, but it's the NFL, man. You have guys coming out every year that are 3rd-round picks that end up being really good, or at least good. But if he's just serviceable, I think it's fair to be like, really? You traded up 30 picks for someone that's just okay? Even Motown Mitch, he says, 3rd round pick expectations. What I expect a good backup that can develop into a starter in the 3rd, not a starter today. That's 1st and 2nd rounders. I never said I want him to be a starter today, but what I did say is I expect him at some point to be pretty good. I mean, or at least just good. If he gets you 300 yards a year, it's a failed pick, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's just not really what you're expecting. That's the standard you hold 3rd round picks to, I think, in my opinion, based on what Brad has shown us throughout his tenure. Not saying he has to hit on every single 3rd round pick, but when you take guys like Aleem McNeil, that turns out to be a very good player, you take Kirby Joseph, who turned out to be a very good player, and you're looking around the NFL and you're seeing Les Snead with the Rams find really talented players in the 3rd round. You look at other GMs, Brad Veach, Howie Roseman, find really good players in the 3rd round. I think it's fair to be like, all right, if you're a 3rd round pick and our GM likes you and he's really good at what he does, then we're expecting you to be pretty good. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I don't think we should lower expectations now to save our own ass. Oh, it's all right. Just let him develop. Yeah, I'm going to let him develop. But if you trade up 30-something spots to grab him, that's just the expectations that come with it, unfortunately. So I'm not saying it was a massive reach. I'm just saying that's just the reality. I'm not even going to get into that. I just think the trade was a little, rich for me. It just, you're trading up 30-something picks, multiple 3rd round picks. for next year, which next year you can argue is a better draft class. So that's just what I'm holding Isaac TeSlaa to. It's again, I like the player. It's just the trade. I'm like, okay, all right, he really likes Isaac TeSlaa. So I'm excited to see what he turns into. I think it's very. I'm excited to see what he turns into. But that's where I was coming from with it. Again, I mean, Lucas brought Isaac TeSlaa to our attention. So after that, we were like, ooh, like Isaac TeSlaa. But then what happens after you draft Isaac TeSlaa is multiple edges come off the board. And this is what I wanted to get into too. We understand that Brad has his board. Other GMs have their board. So when Brad takes a player, I already have the answer to why he took a player. I already know the answer. It's because, Isaac TeSlaa was higher on his board than Josiah Stewart, Princely. Who's the other one? There's more, Savion Jones. There's other guys there, but those are kind of a couple. I guess you can go through here. I have it right here. Mike Green. Because Mike Green went after Tate Ratledge. But again, I'm not as bad about that. But you're looking at the third round. Okay, I'll read it off. And I can show you guys this. So let me pull this up. All right. Now this is just the truth. This is what's going to happen. And this comes with expectations, right? Isaac TeSlaa, you draft him at 70. Landon Jackson goes off the board. Pat Bryant, of course, but I'm out to pick again. If you like Isaac TeSlaa over Pat Bryant, I'm not going to fight you on it. That's fine. But Princely, Jordan Birch, you keep going. Josiah Stewart, Savion Jones. So you had about 4 edges come off the board in the same round. Now, this is when Brad comes to the podium and he's talking to the media. And he says, like, you guys are, it's your guys' concern, not really necessarily ours, about this whole edge thing and finding the answer to the other side of Hutch. And he's just, these guys aren't high on our board. And these people that talk about edge don't watch film. And they don't have as much information as we do. I think a lot of that's actually true. And it's a lot of it are fair. A lot of what he's saying is fair. So I'm not even going to go at that point. I just think people are going to always look back on drafts. The reality is people are always going to look back on drafts and look at Lions draft picks. And every team does this. And look after those draft picks and see players that end up working out because it's always hindsight 2020. And that's going to be the same case with this one, unfortunately. If Jordan Birch ends up being a really good player for Arizona, people are going to look at Brad and complain about it. And, that's just the reality. But I think what the Lions do need is to bring back Zadarius Smith at this point. I think he's got to be the next move. You got to bring back Zadarius Smith. I mean, you're looking at Ahmed. I'm excited for him. I am. I like Ahmed. I love his effort. I love his mentality. I love his approach. There's a lot of things I like about him. His athleticism. He's not the biggest guy, but he's impactful. He makes plays. He has an upside because he's only been playing football a handful of years. But again, I talked earlier about the 3rd round pick thing. 6th round picks, I don't really have much of an expectation for. I don't. Even if your GM is Brad Holmes, because it's not fair to expect 6th round picks to just be excellent players because Brad Holmes selected them. It's okay. He's going to miss on players in the late rounds. You're just picking guys kind of out of a hat. You like some players, and if they're there, it's great. If they work out, awesome. If they don't, it's okay. So Ahmed, as much as I like him, I just want people to understand he was a 6th round pick. He is a project. Not now. How much of a project is a different argument. There's some people that believe he can contribute earlier. Guys, he's been playing football for like 5 years. You know what I mean? Let's just let this thing kind of play out here. He's going to the NFL. And he was playing at Boise State, which isn't the greatest competition. He's still productive, and I like him. Again, I'm just saying, let's just manage our expectations because there's people that probably assume that he could be the answer next to Hutch, and let's just chill out. All right, let's just chill out a second. He's going to be a good role player. I don't know if he'll make a big impact year one, but maybe year two, or maybe at some points this year, you see some Ahmed and he makes some plays, but it's not going to be something where it's like Ahmed bursts into the scene and he's, DN2. So I think we got to let this thing kind of give him some time, give Ahmed some time. And I still really like him, but I don't want people to put unfair expectations on him. I just, because then you're going to be disappointed right away. Let's see. Tokyo says Ziggy Ansah didn't play football till his senior year of high school. That is true. And again, I'm not saying he can't make an impact. I just think people are like, well, there it is. We found DN2. Let's wrap it up. Let's pack it up. Go home. All right. We don't need it. No, we don't know that yet. Again, he's a 6th-round pick. And I think he's someone that, with the right development, can turn out to be pretty good. Like Motown Mitch, Ahmed, 3rd year could be DN2 realistically. That's max, so I would think. I wouldn't mind it if year 2. We have to remember the Lions bring players along. It takes some time for guys. They bring them along, and then they start playing them more and more. Unless they're this isn't earlier in the Lions' tenure with Brad and Dan where they were just terrible and players had to just play right away. They have a good team. They don't need to rush Ahmed to play. They don't. He can just learn, play spots, play special teams, and then as the year goes on, you'll see where he's at. But they don't need to throw Ahmed out there and be like, hey, go produce. Now, he looked good against Penn State, Peter says. That is true. That is true. And I found that out 2 days ago, Saturday, when they drafted him. I was doing more research, and I watched the Penn State game, and I was like, oh, okay, He has those moments, but that's where the development comes into play. Is he shows flashes, positive flashes. And the Lions have shown they can develop players. So you should be excited. You should be excited for him. Shift God said Za'Darius has leverage. His value has skyrocketed now. I mean, yeah, I'll say this about the Za'Darius thing, man. You do need him. You do need him back. I don't know how any Lions fan can feel comfortable with the thought of Marcus Davenport starting on week 1. I just don't know how you can feel comfortable. And that's the only thing I have pushed back on Brad was when he brought up the comment, you're only saying that because guys were hurt last year. I'm talking about edge. You're only bringing that up because guys are hurt. No, we're bringing it up because one of the players that was hurt has been hurt consistently. Consistently. Every year consistently. Like clockwork consistently. So that's why people bring it up, because the player that got hurt again. Davenport keeps getting hurt. And if we know this, then you know this, Brad. So it's not just because people just feel like bitching because there was injuries. They're bitching because an injury-prone player got injured. And that was DN2. That's what sucks. Hutchinson going down was a freak injury. I'm not even going to, that's not, it is what it is. But to have Marcus Davenport as the linchpin because he's your DN2, and after that, you don't really have much. I mean, if AQM, okay, I like AQM, but is he going to be DN2 to win a Super Bowl? No, he's not. He's not. It's just how it is. He's not. You need a good pass rush, and you need someone that's a pretty stable DN2, and they don't really have that right now. I saw Mekhi Wingo, guys, I love Mekhi. I think he's better as a 3-tech. I do like Mekhi Wingo. I don't think you line him up at edge and be like, all right, Mekhi, go cause havoc. I don't think that's what he's going to be. He's not really a pure edge. Marcus Davenport's probably, I mean, that's why you got to bring back Za'Darius. You just do. I'm sorry, you do. Last year, his production last year, if you get that type of, they haven't had that type of player since James Houston. They just haven't. He's been their most productive player aside from Hutch since James Houston. And James Houston did it in 1 year. So they need Za'Darius. And Brad talked about it after. They're not going to be done adding players. So I think Za'Darius should be top of the priority list. Definitely. Because him and Hutch would be great. And then you have some depth there. You have Marcus Davenport, who's there, but you're not relying on him to be there. Like, if he goes down, you're like, okay, we have Za'Darius, who's actually been healthy for the past couple of years. I think he plays in 17 games. He's done that multiple times. And then Marcus Davenport's hurt every year. So you already know how it's going to end. So I just don't want to go through this thing again, where you go into the season and Brad goes, well, I'm pretty confident with what we have. Marcus Davenport starting at defensive end. And then we're in week 6 and he goes down because of some random injury. And now we're all pissed screaming at our computer screens or our cell phones. So Za'Darius should definitely be a priority. You know, and I don't even think, I'm not even going to sit here and say, well, Brad failed the draft because he didn't address edge earlier. You know, because I like the players he took. I do. And I'm not going to ask Brad to reach on a player that, you know, I'm not going to yell at the guy for reaching and not reaching on a player. It's not even about that. But you got to have an answer to this whole edge thing. You got to have some answer. And right now, the most clear answer is Za'Darius Smith. I don't really see another way here. I don't. Unless you could trade for someone. So it's not even about the draft. I just think the reality is you got good players through the draft. I like a lot of players. And by the way, I'm still going to go through a couple here because there's 2 more I haven't talked about, 3 more. But yeah, Za'Darius Smith needs to be in line. So make it happen. All right. Miles Frazier. They took him in the 5th round. Let's talk about Miles Frazier. I really like Miles Frazier, man. He's a very, very versatile player. Played mainly right guard, kind of like Tate Ratledge, but he played games at left tackle. He's played, I think, a couple snaps at right tackle. I want to see if he can play center. That's what I want to see. But Miles Frazier can do a lot of things. He's a player that should have went much earlier, and I don't really know why. To be honest with you guys, I don't know really the answer to that. I know the mahogany thing was like one leg shorter than the other, whatever the hell it is. But you know how many sacks Miles Frazier allowed last year? 0 sacks allowed. So, and he played some snaps at right tackle, played 800 plus snaps at right guard, played in the SEC, obviously. You know, played against Texas A&M with all that talent on the defensive line. So I think Miles Frazier may be the steal of the draft. An absolute steal. Like I'm excited for him because of his size, his versatility, his mentality. He's got great footwork. You know, I'm excited to see what they turn Miles Frazier into. And to be honest with you, the fact that you walk away with Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier, I like that this offensive line's getting younger. I do. I really like that this offensive line's getting younger because Frank, even though he's not old, he's just dealing with a lot of things injury-wise. Taylor Decker's not getting any younger. Graham's not getting any younger. And then Panay and Mahogany. But Mahogany, I already talked about it earlier. I don't think he should be given that spot just because he played well in the game. I think you need to continue to add competition. And with that, you have 2 new young guards, one being very, very versatile, that can come in, you know, add some competition to those guard spots, add some youth in the offensive line room. Like I like Miles Frazier, man. I thought it was a great pick. Someone that, you know, a lot of people mocked him to Detroit pretty often, and he fell to the 5th round. So as a 5th round player, that's a really good pick. It's a really good pick by Brad. All right, let's get to the 2 7th round picks. So first one, guys, Dan Jackson. The next Cooper DeJean. That's what Dan Jackson is. All right. Just a gritty player. But no, in all seriousness, I like Dan Jackson. I had to do more research on him. I've only seen his name. Just doing research on Malachi Starks. That's really the only reason. I've looked at Dan Jackson. To me is just basically what he's going to bring is just special teams. And that's probably it. I mean, I think he can maybe battle and play a little bit, but I'm not going to sit here and have super high expectations for Dan Jackson. He gets his hands on a lot of footballs, like Brad pointed to. I want to see how Dan Jackson goes. I want to see whether he really makes that safety depth. So I don't know much. I'm with you, Coach. I didn't watch Dan Jackson. The only time I saw Dan Jackson was when I was watching Malachi Starks, and I was like, I'll be like, oh, who's Dan Jackson? He stood out, but I wasn't familiar with him. I really wasn't that familiar with him. So Dan Jackson, we'll see how that one turns out. Dominic Lovett. Am I crazy to be kind of excited for Dominic Lovett? I didn't know who. Again, another player. Wasn't familiar with him. So Dominic Lovett. And then I did more research. Slot receiver. 5'10", 185. Super fast. I should say quick. Very quick. And you know what he reminds me of? Kind of, he's a 7th-round pick, and we've already seen another 7th-round pick with Antoine Green not really work out. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this dude's going to be the next, greatest thing since sliced bread. But what I will say about Dominic Lovett is he is going to be an excellent special teamer, kick return, punt return, whatever they want to use him as, because he's very quick. But he could be a future Khalif Raymond replacement. That's what I think could happen. And you look at his production, what he did at Georgia, you're like, wow, how did he make it to the 7th round? Like, he wasn't too bad at Georgia. I mean, you look at some of what he did. I mean, I think he had like 700 yards, 9 TDs, something like that at Georgia. And their quarterback position was unstable throughout the year. Let's see. I'll tell you exactly what he did. He had, and then he was transferred from Missouri, had 850 yards at Missouri, transferred to Georgia and had 600, 6 TDs. They gave him the ball at Missouri, let him run it a little bit. It's kind of what the Lions do with, Khalif Raymond. So I like it. Brad took 3 Georgia guys. So those SEC players. Dominic Lovett, Dan Jackson, and Tate Ratledge. And then you took an Ohio State defensive tackle, LSU. A lot of SEC in here, Arkansas. So, I think this draft class as a whole, if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it around a B+. I like a lot of these players. I think it's hard to give a grade. That's why I hate doing it, because you have to see how these players really age and what they turn into to give a grade. But you know how it is. After the draft, everyone gives grades. So, like, anyone that gives a Lions draft class like a low grade, tell them to go, go stick it. All right, because this, I don't know what to make of it. And I think giving a grade for any class is just stupid. But if I had to give one just based on paper and talent, face value, I'd probably go B+. I like some of these guys. I think the only thing that you could probably point out would be the trade up. I just think it was too rich. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion. But overall, I thought he took some good players, Yeah, Peaceful Tim. Go sit on a broomstick. You're sick. Oh. Reversion to the mean says, you guys still thought we were winning a Super Bowl even without Hutch, though. I mean, yeah, I tried telling a lot of people that, and I hate being the bearer of bad news, but that defense was never winning a Super Bowl. Little did I know that the offense shit the bed, too. So that was a whole nother thing. Malik says Raymond is on the wrong side of 30 and has had back-to-back seasons with injuries. It's a possibility. Yeah, Raymond's getting more banged up lately than he really has prior. So I think it's good to start thinking about a replacement. You know what I mean? And this is what I always, when we talk about like the BPA thing, Brad's always going to draft BPA, but like he'd be lying if he didn't at least mention, like, when you took a player, you have to have a plan for him. Remember, I talk about this too with Brad. My theory on it with Brad is I think he finds best player available, but in his mind, he has to have a vision for the player. You have to have a vision. You're not just blindly best player available, just selecting players. That's not how that works. No matter how much he tries to make it sound like that, it's not. You look at how he's done it. Tyleek, he brought up in the post first round media session, and Brad talked about it to Dan Miller. They both said that they did this because he's a really good player, but also because Lee McNeil's going to be out. Like, there's things they mention in the interview where they're like, yeah, it made a lot of sense to take him. Yeah, like, of course it's just, you're not going to take Jackson Dart at 28 just because we think he's pretty good. But we have Goff under contract for all this time. Unless you have a plan to really replace Goff, there has to be some intention by doing it. So that's the same thing with Dominic Lovett. Like, you take him, he's the best player available, but you don't think they're looking at it from what he can do on a special team perspective, maybe replacing Khalif Raymond, all this stuff. Same with Isaac TeSlaa. Like, great player, they like him, but guess what? He's big, 6'4", runs fast, reliable, playmaker. He could probably replace Tim Patrick, So there's always going to be a plan for the player. That's just how I think it's the right approach by Brad too, man. Like, good. MP, what's your feeling towards the NFC North draft? Well, I think the Lions, if you look at the NFC North and just in general, I don't think any team's really wowed anyone. I mean, I would say the Lions, you probably could say had the best draft. But I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I mean, there's not really much. I mean, what the Bears taking a tight end at 10 and then taking Luther Burden, who I think is actually a good pick, but it just made no sense to take him. Like the Bears, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say the Bears had a great draft. It's just crazy to me that Ben comes from the Lions and they take a tight end at 10. That's the thing I love about Brad. Like, Brad would never do that shit. Like, do you think Brad Holmes would ever take a tight end at 10? Like, I just don't think he would ever do that. I don't know. It would have to be this generational tight end. Like, he took Sam Laporta at 33, 34, I think it was, 34. And then and then Ryan Poles, I'm going to take Colson Loveland at 10. Like, how stupid are you? How stupid are you? Like, that, just a terrible pick. Not player-wise. I like Colson Loveland, but what are you doing? I mean, the Browns, the Bears, you need a defensive end. And they signed someone from the Colts. He's all right. He's more of he'll be there. I think they were one of the worst teams in pass rush win rate and run defense. And they took a tight end who they have Cole Kmet, who they just extended. It's like, well, we can play them both on the same time. Okay. What does Colson Loveland do for you? Raise your ceiling by how much offensively? He'll make you better. But what would have made you even more better is if you drafted the best, available left tackle or drafted the best available defensive lineman. That would have made it better. But they didn't. So, and they took a wide receiver. It's like, that dude's what is he going to do? You have DJ Moore under contract. You have Roma Dunze under contract. Those two should get fed. And then you have Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet, who will get targets. Luther Burden's going to count for, 150, 200 yards. Terrible. I mean, that was a terrible draft. Terrible draft by the Bears. It was almost malfeasance. If you're a Bears fan, you should look at this organization and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You could have argued it probably would have been a better pick to take Amarion Hampton at fucking 10. You know what I mean? And I don't even think that's the best move. But at least you could argue, well, we need a run game to help Caleb Williams. What the fuck's a tight end going to do for him? What the hell is Colson Loveland going to do for him? At least give him the best back available. And I promise you it would have helped Caleb a lot. DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson, I promise ain't going to do nothing for him. So, and then the Vikings had an and draft. The Packers always have an and draft. It's okay. Dom said, so Jeff, in an offensive league, the Bears had a bad draft. Here's the problem, Dom. It is an offensive league, but guess who just won the Super Bowl? A team with the best offensive line and defensive line. So before we get into this, score a lot of points, got to be able to get after the quarterback and you got to be able to protect your quarterback. That's what the game is right now. Because it's such a quarterback dependent game in league, you need to be able to protect your quarterback and get after the opposing quarterback. Like, you can have all the shiny weapons you want, dude. The example I always bring up is you have a leak in your roof and you're buying another flat screen TV. What the hell are you doing? Fix the leak and stop buying flat screen TVs. All right? All right. Cool. Broski, Burden will start at slot receiver and Loveland will start at tight end. Bears drafted a defensive tackle and offensive tackle in the second. Yeah, I'll say this, Broski. I actually think Burden fell way too far. I like Burden, so I'm not going to say that Burden was kind of a bad pick or anything. Still hate Loveland at 10. And I'm going to see how that one works out. I just hate it. I disagree with it fundamentally. If the Lions did it and they didn't have Laporta, I still wouldn't like it. I just think, man, tight ends, especially at that spot, like if you're taking a tight end at 10, then you expect him to be a multi-time All-Pro. So that's the expectation for Loveland. This is how it is. All-Pro, just every other year, absolute dog. You know, one of the best, if not the best tight end in the league. That's what you're looking for. If he's not Brock Bowers, it's a bust. So that's how I look at it. If you draft him 10th. And if I'm looking at if the Lions ever drafted one like that, I would say fuck that. Same thing. We've been through it with Eric Ebron here in Detroit and TJ Hawkinson. Both left the Lions. Never works out. It never works out. Look at some of the best tight ends in the league. Only Brock Bowers, first-round pick. Kittle, not a first-round pick. Kelsey, not a first-round pick. Mark Andrews, not a first-round pick. Laporta, not a first-round pick. Just how it is. Tight end to me is a luxury. It's a luxury to have a tight end. It's awesome. It's great. But defensive line, offensive line, running back, you got to be able to run the ball. That stuff all matters way more than having just a cool tight end, in my opinion. But we can agree to disagree. If you like the pick, Broski, I get it. 12 personnel, you have 2 tight ends. I get it. They can both play. And then Broski Bear says Jack Campbell at 18, Gibbs at 12. Yeah, McBride. Thank you, Daniel. McBride, not a first-round pick. Another one. That's a great one, actually. Jack Campbell at 18, Gibbs at 12. Well, the whole thing, listen, the Gibbs thing, people are going to come at me for that, but I just not a huge fan of running backs in the first round. Never been. Jack Campbell, linebacker, still not really a huge fan of that. But Gibbs, I understand. I understand taking a player like that. And Joe Douglas came out and said that we would have taken him, the Jets, if he was available. So he was going to be a first-round pick, and the Lions took a very good player. So I understand the Gibbs pick. Jack Campbell, we have yet to we have to see. Let's see more of Jack Campbell, man. Because if Jack comes out this year and he's a Pro Bowler, then that draft looks a lot differently. So better than taking a tight end, though, at 10. It's still crazy. I'm sorry. Sorry, broski. And I picked the Bears to be second in the division. And I still don't like the pick. So it is what it is. Love is real. Jimmy Graham, 3rd round. Thank you. See, we can keep going with this, guys. It's just how it is. Peaceful Tim, Brad knows value. Gibbs was special. Campbell's like fine wine, only getting better with age. Yeah, we got to see with Jack. I think this year for Jack's big. I think it's, if you're drafted at 18, it comes with that label. And I know there's people, I've heard people say that too. It's like once they're drafted, forget about where they're drafted. Absolutely not. No, that's where you're drafted. It coincides with your expectations. It's if you're drafted 18th overall, people expect 18th overall production and development. So for Jack Campbell this year, you expect him to play at basically a borderline Pro Bowl level. It's his 3rd year. He's had plenty of time. So now you're waiting for it. Like, all right, Jack. And last year he did get better. He got better last year. He did. But this year you're expecting another jump. Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't need to do anything. We already know Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute animal. I'm not even going to comment on him. He's pretty damn good. But Jack Campbell, yeah, he's got to show out. He's got to go out there and show out this year, man. Let's see. Broski says, by the way, Gibbs is great, though. 2nd best running back in the league. Just saying that sometimes you try positions that need to fit your scheme. Yeah, like I get that, but sometimes you don't want to overdraft for players that just fit your scheme. I think sometimes you got to be disciplined, and I don't know. Well, again, we'll see. Maybe Loveland turns out to be a multi-time All-Pro and I don't know, greatest one of the greatest Chicago Bears tight ends. And then we can be like, all right, still wouldn't love the pick at 10, but I understand it. And he becomes a really good player. But, I mean, these tight ends going, it's the Brock Bowers effect now. Tight ends are going to get drafted earlier. So, MP, thank you for the $2. Says, does Kmet honestly strike fear? No, Loveland can. I'll give you that. Loveland's more of an actual, he's more of a receiving tight end. Kmet's a better blocker. Nasty says, here's the thing, Jeff. Jack led the team in tackles last year. I'm not worried about that, and plays aggressive football. Well, there you go. I agree with that. Peter Manning, Jack is arguably a top 15 linebacker and might not be the best on the team. Let's see. Yeah, Peter, I would say last year I think Anzalone was the better linebacker. But it's like I'm not saying Jack was bad. It's just I think it was close, and I would give the edge to Anzalone. Because when he was back, you saw how important it was. He just made plays immediately. And I think Jack is probably top 15. I don't think I can, if I went through 15 linebackers, I don't know if I can name 15 better. But the Lions have two really good linebackers. Peaceful Tim. Gronk was a second-round pick, 42nd pick. Gronk. Yeah. Right there. Fucking Gronk. Second-round pick. Jesse, Loveland is the next Hawkinson, a.k.a. not having a good start at his first team, but better on his second team. Just watch it happen. Yeah, and to me, when that happens, guys, it's a failed pick. Just a failed pick, man. Like the Lions, that TJ Hawkinson pick, it was a bust. He's not a bad player, but the Lions did not get what they should have gotten. Like, you didn't get what you wanted out of that. He left. He's gone. So Bob Quinn, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for that. And I understand that he was ranked top 10 and by a lot of people, and he just, okay, well then let's see it then, broski. Let's see it then. Watch him torch the Lions. Don't clip this. Still don't agree with the pick. But maybe it's just me. I like Cole Kmet. I do. I think he's a underrated tight end. And I think you can win with that. Wilson says, in the history of the NFL, one tight end drafted top 10 won a Super Bowl and he had 0 catches for 0 yards. Wilson, this might be the greatest stat I have ever seen on this program. In the history of the NFL, one tight end drafted top 10 won a Super Bowl and he had 0 catches for 0 yards. This might be the best argument in the history of arguments. Because what does it show? It shows you that when you draft players, the priority list, what players will help me or positions will help me win a Super Bowl. Drafting one of the top 10, a tight end in the top 10 will not be the reason. It's going to be your head coach, your quarterback, your pass rush, your offensive line. And then you get to can a couple weapons make some plays? Hey, did anyone remember hearing Dallas Goedert in this year's Super Bowl? No, you didn't. All right. Appreciate you all. We'll get out of here. We'll be live later, 8 to 10 p.m. So be there, tune in, talk about the draft, share our thoughts, and get into plenty more things. But I appreciate you guys hanging with me. Again, I like the draft. I thought the Lions did a pretty good job, and we'll talk about it with Boone and Lukas later. But until then, You guys have a great, great rest of your day, and I will catch you later on at 8 p.m. So be there. But until then, peace.